All right, welcome back to Fish Legends, guys. Steve Taft, Captain Legend here with Nate from the H&M Landing Tackle Shop, who recently got off a 2-day trip with me where we caught some bluefin at night. And we're going to talk about the lures that are working and what you should have in your tackle box to be a well-prepared angler when you step on the boat. So Nate, let's go over some of the options that we got here.
All right, so you got kind of your old school, the ones that have been working the last couple of seasons really well. That's like your long skinny lures, whether it's your jig paras, your Williamsons, your long rip rollers, any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They work really good. They're still getting bit, but seems like we're starting to see a shift on what these fish are keyed in on.
This is a 300-gram lure right here. And when you measure the length of this, it's like 9-inch lure right here. So long and skinny. And traditionally, the last few years, they've been working real well. But what we saw on our last trip was a smaller profile jig seemed to be getting bit a lot better. Almost like 2 to 1, wouldn't you say?
It was good, man. I don't know if they were necessarily getting bit better or if they were sticking their bites really good, but there's no doubt those guys were putting fish on the boat.
Yeah, like maybe they were hitting the longer jigs, but they were sticking better on the smaller profile jigs. 2 of the ones that we have mentioned on this channel quite a few times, Mustad's Rip Roller and Daiwa's SK. These are both 300 grams as well, measuring in at a much shorter length than the 9-inch 300 gram. I think we're around 7.5 inches on one, and what are we, 6.5 on the other?
Yeah, roughly 7 inches.
They're all 300-gram lures.
Worth mentioning too, they all fall differently too. So
Yeah.
the difference in design, your rip rollers and your long skinnies, those things are made to just shoot down, get to the depth where you want them. These SKs will kind of flutter a little more on their way down. And sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing. Sometimes it can keep you in the zone where those fish are and help you get those bites, but sometimes you just need to get there.
Sometimes you need to get down, right. The other good part about the Daiwa SK is you can almost fish this straight out of package. So the hooks that come on it, they're pretty strong hooks. They're going to hold up well. Your Mustad Rip Roller. Great lure, terrible hooks. As soon as you get these, take the hooks off, throw away. Luckily, Mustad makes an upgrade that you can put on it. I would suggest doing that absolutely for Mustad Rip Rollers. The SKs you can get away with, but Mustad sells these, what are these, 7/0 right here?
Yeah, those are 7/0. Anywhere from like a 5/0 to like a 9/0 in the Mustad would be killer.
Yeah, they seem to work real well. But we talked about it a little bit last season. It was just getting in, and the jig manufacturers have stepped their game up for our bluefin fishery, and we are seeing the gram size that we want in the tungsten lures. This is also a 300-gram lure, just like the other ones we've mentioned, but this one is made out of tungsten by BFT. 1.8 times as dense the tungsten is compared to lead. So you have a 300 gram in a small package. This one is measuring in at just over 5 inches.
It's almost half the length of your long knife jigs.
9 inches, 5 inches, 300 gram, 300 gram. And so like Nate was saying, some of the guys were getting hit and the bites weren't sticking, and the bites were sticking on the tungsten. What hooks should they use with these tungsten right here from BFT?
So BFT's got some good offerings. They actually just started making these guys. It's a 5/0 in their HD assist, kind of a smaller assist hook, but designed to fish with the tungsten lures. I think this would be a good size to start with, but me personally, I like to fish as big a hook as I can get away with. So even something as big as these 11/0 BFTs or something as small as these 7/0 Mustads, I like to have something with a really big gap. I don't feel that it makes a jig fall any slower, and I feel like you really do capitalize on those bites.
Right, and BFT also has these tungstens in 250 gram. The 250 grams run for $79.99 at H&M. The 300s run for $89.99. But if you guys mention Fish the Legend, you'll get 10% off on these. We're running a special for this YouTube channel only. So mention Fish the Legend for the BFT tungsten and get a little discount. Because if I were going out on a trip, these are the lures I would want to have in there. But just in case we ran into some weather, some current where we're drifting fast, or the fish are deeper, you may want to have something to get even a little bit deeper than your dense tungsten. So what do we got here, Nate?
The old Eddie Bomb, man. This is a really good option here. Again, small package. Lengthwise, you're probably looking actually real similar in length to this tungsten, maybe even a little shorter. This thing is a pound of weight.
Yeah.
Granted, it's a little thicker, and it's definitely not going to flutter or stay in the zone, but on those days where you just need to fight current, you need to get down 450 feet, or the boat's drifting fast, these things are pretty tough to beat.
Yeah, the Eddie Bomb works. Guys were using it during our last trip when we got into that wide open bite. The Eddie Bomb was working for them very well. Also, BFT is making their version of an Eddie Bomb, I would call it. You can see it's very similar to the Torpedo here, except you have some color on it, right? This is a 500 gram. It's wired all the way through, which I know is a big question a lot of guys have.
Our Eddie bombs are too. Everything we use in the shop is wired through here.
So if you hooked into a really big fish and you had to step up to 40, 50 pounds of drag, you can fish with comfort knowing that it's not going to rip through. And this Eddie bomb is already rigged up with heavy leader. You guys at H&M rigged this up with?
This one looks like it's probably 200-pound fluoro.
200-pound fluoro. You don't need a long one, 3 foot, just a bite leader. I would leader up all these lures if it were me, and I would add upgraded hooks, whatever you want to fish, to any of my lures. We have a video on how to rig up an Eddie bomb. If you guys want to try to make one yourself, check that out. If you guys want to stay up to date on the latest tackle and what's working out there, be sure to subscribe. We look forward to seeing you out there on the water.
This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are